Here's the batting order. Scott Erickson will face Derek Jeter at the top. Wade Boggs in there for a second consecutive game. Hits second, plays third. Bernie Williams, the MVP of this series, if it were to end right now. Tino Martinez hasn't hit all that well overall in the postseason, but had a big double in Game 3. Cecil Fielder, his homer on Friday night was the crusher against Mike Mussina. Darryl Strawberry has to be back in there. In this case, in left field, had 2 home runs and a single last night. Paul O'Neill really hobbling, but managed to clear the wall with a drive to left center. He's a liability at this point in the outfield, but he swung the bat fairly well last night. Jim Leyritz, who's kind of the personal catcher for today's Yankee starter Andy Pettitte, will hit in the 8th spot, and Luis Sojo is in at second base rather than Mariano Duncan. Duncan has a tender right knee. It's not serious. He could play if needed. He could pinch hit today, but Sojo gets the start. Erickson was 13-12 for the year. His ERA just over 5, but he was 4-1 in the month of September. And generally speaking, he's been a better pitcher in his career in the latter stages of a season. No decisions in each of his 2 playoff starts, one against Cleveland, one against the Yankees, but pitched well on both occasions. Jeter has hit safely in every Yankee postseason game. And he takes a ball. The plate umpire is Rocky Rowe, and the question is, will he give Erickson the low strike? How he calls them could be a factor in this game. Bounced foul, 1-1.
Let's see if we can take a look at one of these pitches to see how it affects the hitter. Here, now watch how bright the ball is when he releases it. See, it's very easy to see it now right there. All of a sudden it gets dark, and that's the problem that you have as a hitter, trying to see through the bright background.
1-1 pitch. Breaking ball inside. How good is Erickson's sinker? Well, he has the best ground ball to fly ball ratio in the entire league. Almost 3 balls hit on the ground against him for every one that gets in the air. A called strike 2-2, and he induced more batters to hit into double plays than anyone else in the league because of that sinker. 36 DP ground balls with Erickson pitching. A little high and just a little. Full count.
You're right, and that's where Erickson has the problems, Bob, right there. He's been upstairs 3 times on Jeter. Jeter hasn't offered at any of those 3, but when he's right, and again, you can really see the ball sink, dive down inside to a right-handed batter.
A bouncing ball, Ripken to his left. Nice stab, whirling throw, got him by an eyelash.
We've seen several times in this series where routine ground balls become very close plays at first base because Ripken does not get rid of the ball quickly enough and doesn't have a strong arm anymore. Jeter thought he beat this play. We'll take a look at it. See, he takes his time. Now he throws, but he doesn't get enough on the throw. And a very close play at first base. We'll get a better look, see maybe what Jeter felt. Well, I can understand why he was a little upset right there.
You're right.
Wade Boggs stands in and takes a ball. Is it worth noting that this call at first is made by Rich Garcia? It ought to please Oriole fans.
yeah, they've been carrying signs about Rich Garcia all over this city. But it looked like Jeter had it beat by almost a half a step.
Yeah, they're trying to get a message to Garcia, and it isn't a favorable one.
There he is.
He's kept his dignity and his sense of humor through it all. A good umpire.
You're right, and a good person. That's what he's a very good person.
Swing and a miss by Boggs. And one more look at the play at first.
Now again, Ripken looked like he took a stutter step before he finally grabbed that ball, then made the spin and the throw. And as Joe said, he really doesn't have enough velocity anymore. It was a tough play for him, but Jeter clearly beat that throw to first.
It was interesting that they didn't put up a real big argument on that play. Jose Cardinal at first base, the coach didn't say much. Jeter kind of stood there in amazement, but they did not put up too big an argument.
And Boggs strikes out. We've seen that happen several times in the postseason. It happens so infrequently during the regular year. Just 32 strikeouts, the third toughest to fan in the American League. But he's not the same hitter these days.
No doubt about it. He has lost his hitting zone. That's the way he is terming it. He has lost his control of the strike zone. He usually controls the strike zone. If he goes out of the strike zone, he chases pitches, yes, he may strike out. But usually balls in the strike zone, he's able to control them, and he can no longer control them.
Boggs is now 0 for his last 22 since a double in his first at-bat against Texas in the division series.
Well, I said before, I'd been there and done that when he was around 12. I didn't make it to 22.
The Bernie Williams rampage continued last night. Long home run off Coppinger in the first. A double later on in the game. 500 for this series. 483 overall in the postseason with 5 homers and 11 RBIs.
You're talking about Erickson and his sinker. He's got some velocity. Our first trip on the radar gun today, 95 miles an hour on that last fastball.
And the 1-1 pitch is hit in the air to center field. It'll send Brady Anderson back, way back, and over his head and over the wall on a bounce. The ball takes some kangaroo hops off the warning track here at Camden Yards.
Well, we were talking about it in last night's game, Bob. This warning track is cork and rubber, I believe. And anything that hits on it, it takes a super ball bounce. That's exactly what it does. If you've got a dirt warning track or cinders or whatever they use in different ballparks, at least you've got a chance to have the ball bounce off the fence. Here or in any other park with this kind of a warning track, it hops over the wall or up on top of the wall all the time.
Meanwhile, Bernie Williams continues to look like Ted Williams. He's now hit in all 9 postseason games. Around 500 in the playoffs.
Let's take a look at that last fly ball. Now, we'll watch Bernie Williams. He reaches out and hits it very hard to left center field. Brady Anderson actually started in and then had to go back, so he did not feel that Williams had hit that ball as well as he did, and he did not get a good jump on it.
You talked about the effect the shadows can have on hitters. Now, part of the outfield is in sunlight, and the ball off the bat is coming out of the shadows. This is Brady Anderson's ballpark, but nonetheless, could it have given him trouble?
I don't think there's any doubt that it did bother him. You're right. I mean, it's tough to see from everyone's perspective.
Hey, how big is that call at first base now on Jeter? I mean, if the call is made because it looked like he clearly beat it, the Yankees might have a lead here at 1-0.
Well, we saw Brady break in and then back on this particular play, and the ball bounced over the fence. But Brady Anderson normally gets a better jump on the ball than that.
Swinging on the 3-0 pitch, Tino Martinez grounds it to Ripken from the outfield grass. He throws him out. So Joe Torre let him take a rip in an RBI spot, but he couldn't come through. No score after half an inning. Brady Anderson at the top, homered off Pettit in game 1 at Yankee Stadium. Zeal, Alomar, Palmeiro. Bonilla hitless in this series, followed by Ripken, Murray, Surhoff, and Parent.
I think the key to Pettit's success today will be how he uses the 4-seam fastball. He almost used a cutter on every pitch last week, and that kept him in trouble. He needs to have the good 4-seam fastball so he can ride the ball up and in on the left-handers and away from the right-handers.
Prior to game 1 of this LCS, Andy Pettit had allowed only 1 homer all year to a left-handed batter. It was Rusty Greer of Texas way back in April. But 2 lefties, Anderson at the plate now, and Palmeiro went deep on him at Yankee Stadium.
I tell you what, if he gets a fastball to hit, I know in talking about Brady Anderson, I mean, he's such a great leadoff hitter with big-time power, 50-plus home runs this year, including the postseason. If he gets something close with a fastball, I mean, he's going all the time.
Rolled to second. Soho playing today for Duncan. Throws him out. Take a look at a Yankee defense that has committed only 1 error in this LCS. It was by Duncan, by the way, and only 3 errors in the postseason in 8 games.
Well, this is basically the same lineup they had yesterday, except Soho, who has replaced Duncan at second base, and Soho is actually a little better defensively than Duncan. Not as good a hitter, but very good defensively. And the real key has been their infield play. They've played great inner defense.
Zeal to the plate, taking a ball. Only Texas made fewer errors overall during the year than the Yankees did. As we told you, Rocky Rowe has the plate, and Rich Garcia was involved in a close call at first. Larry Barnett is at second, Dale Scott at third, Mike Riley left field line, Dan Morrison right field line. 1-2.
And I might mention that Jim Leyritz is catching in place of Girardi because he is Pettit's personal catcher. And that started because last year he was struggling with Mike Stanley behind the plate. Girardi caught a couple of games and he did very well, so they've been partners ever since.
2-2 to the Oriole third baseman. Girardi starting the day on the bench next to David Cone, who would be the starter Tuesday if there's a game 6 in New York. Back of first into foul ground. Tough play. Tino Martinez takes it with his back to the infield. Nice catch.
That's a beautiful running grab by Tino Martinez, not only fighting the tarp down past first base, that infield cover, but again with the glasses down and fighting a pretty tough sun. Check this out. Into foul territory now. The ball girl scatters down the line. He's right next to that infield cover, and again with somebody reaching out over the lower box seat railing, he makes a nice running catch. This is not an easy chance over the shoulder job by Tino Martinez. Nice play.
It's worth noting that as Roberto Alomar stepped into the batter's box and his name was announced by Rex Barney, the legendary PA man here, goes back to the old Memorial Stadium days and now Camden Yards. Bouncer to third, and Boggs is going to throw him out. He was cheered, but not that loudly, and you could hear a few boos mixed in from Oriole fans who nonetheless want him to know they don't approve of what he did. No score after 1. Cecil Fielder will start it against Erickson as we move to the Yankees second. And a fastball for a strike.
Well, you can really see that fastball run in on Fielder that time. This fastball by Erickson runs a good 6 to 8 inches in on Cecil Fielder. You can see the rotation. Joe talked about it earlier. It almost looks like he's got that screwball effect that'll make it run into a right-handed batter.
Tell you one other thing that happens, and this is why Cecil chases this breaking ball here. It's because that sinker running in is a heavy sinker, and you do not want to get jammed if you're right-handed. So you're always out in front, trying to get out front. And when you do that, you're susceptible to the breaking ball that he throws. Every hitter hates for him to get in their kitchen, but especially our sinker ball pitcher like his, because it's so heavy it really hurts you. Hands. Now watch this. Cecil trying to keep him out of his kitchen. He gets out in front of it.
Erickson's 0-2 pitch, and he got in to chase another one out of the strike zone. Not a good AB for Fielder, but Erickson can do that to you. He's now 10 for 49 lifetime against the Orioles starter.
Well, last night Strawberry had a great game, and out before the ball game today, you see Reggie Jackson here, Mr. October. He's behind the plate helping Strawberry, and what he's doing, he's telling him to leave it out there a little longer, meaning keep that front shoulder in. Strawberry has a tendency sometime to pull off and shorten his swing. He wants him to give it that long swing. See how his front shoulder pulled off right there? That's what Reggie was trying to tell him to do. Leave it out there a little longer.
It'll be interesting to see if Erickson works Strawberry differently than other hitters, because Darrell likes the ball down low
and out over the plate.
I don't think you can work him any differently. I really don't. I think you have to stay with your strength. And for Erickson, it's sinking fastballs down low and away. I think you got to go with what you do best.
It's a good point. But I think every once in a while he can probably throw that four-seam fastball up out of the strike zone, and hopefully he'll get Strawberry to chase it. That's maybe a tactic he'll use when he gets ahead in the count.
Strawberry has only 4 lifetime at-bats against Erickson. 2 hits, neither of them a homer. Two and 2.
You know, in going back to that pitch that Fielder swung and missed at, that he struck out on, Joe, I wonder if it's really that tough to see, because he really swung at 2 really bad breaking balls in the dirt.
And breaking balls are tougher to hit simply because you need to see the spin on the ball to know where it's going to go. And it's tough to see the spin in this type of a twilight, or when the sun is behind the pitcher and you're in the shadows.
Full count. Look at Alomar and Ripken. They're both on the outfield grass against Strawberry.
Well, he tries to come inside on Strawberry because he knows he likes the ball out over the plate and down, so he tries to come in, and he's just off the plate inside.
And Strawberry draws a walk. Erickson is one of the best control pitchers in the league, averaging fewer than 3 walks for every 9 innings of work. Being careful with Strawberry. If the Orioles needed to be convinced about what he could do, the convincing came last night. Davey Johnson doesn't need that math degree from Trinity College in San Antonio to figure out what 2 home runs and a single can do to you. That's what Straw did last night. 3 RBIs, 3 runs scored. Here's O'Neill. And a called strike.
Bob, you made the point early in the series, but 2 home runs by Strawberry actually psychs the team up more than 2 home runs, say, from Paul O'Neill. There's something about him and his personality that jacks a team up when he does well, because he's got that charisma.
A ball and a strike. Well, you saw him a moment ago with Reggie Jackson. Reggie's in the Hall of Fame, and deservedly so. There were players, however, of Reggie's generation who objectively were better all-round baseball players, but few, if any, who electrified a crowd.
Exactly.
And who could affect the course of a game, it seemed, like Reggie could. And when he's in a groove, Strawberry has that kind of presence.
You're exactly right, and that's why him playing here in this series here, getting the starts here in Baltimore, have been important, I think, for the Yankees. Just his presence in the lineup changes that entire lineup.
Strawberry can still run, and Erickson is concerned about him. Big contrast between the starters. Pettit, very difficult to run on, has led the major leagues in pickoffs each of his 2 years in the majors. Erickson, on the other hand, allowed more stolen bases than any starter in the league.
And if you look at Erickson, Bob, he's got that bit of a high leg kick. A lot of pitchers, a lot of right-handers who try and stop a guy or slow him down at first have that slide step.
2-1 pitch, rolled to short. Ripken to Alomar on to first, and with O'Neill hobbled by the bad hamstring, the DP was relatively easy. Pettit to Palmeiro, who taps it foul.
And let's watch O'Neill running down the first baseline. You'll see that he is hurting, and any ground ball he hits with a man on first base is going to be a double play. You see he pulls up right here, and then a little nice exchange from he and Bobby Bonilla after he slams his hat down. But Bobby Bonilla comes by and he asks him about right field. He asks him, can you see out there? And you'll see Bobby Bonilla will say, you can't see out in right field.
A soft liner off a check swing by Palmeiro. And Pettit makes the catch on the mound for the first out in the bottom of the second. You could also see O'Neill wincing, not just hobbling, but wincing as he approached first base.
In asking him today again, Bob, about that blown tire or hamstring that he's got, he said it does not bother him to stretch, to lay down, stretch, pull his leg up behind him, and really doesn't bother him that bad to run. I mean, pain-wise, he said he doesn't want to really blow it. He knows he could really blow it if he really stretches out. I don't understand how he hits with that situation and tries to drive the ball. I don't know how he does it. It's got to be a tough thing to do.
Bonilla is 0 for 16 in this series and 3 for 31 in the division series and LCS combined, though he did hit 2 home runs, one of them a grand slam against Cleveland. But he is in a major nosedive right now.
This time of the year, a lot of guys with bumps and bruises, and there you see B.J. Surhoff. He has a bad knee, and he's icing his knee while he sits on the bench.
Diving to his right is Martinez. Covering is Pettit, and Bonilla is denied. And when you're in a slump, that's what happens.
Boy, and Pettit almost forgot to cover on that ball. He thought that ball was going to get into right field. He got a very late break off the mound. Tino Martinez with a beautiful diving backhanded stab. But Pettit thought that ball was going to get through, and he was late. Look at Martinez. He was almost going to run to the bag himself before Pettit made the break. Here it is again. Nice play by Martinez. Diving backhanded stab to knock it down. And Pettit was late leaving the mound, but he got there in time to beat Bonilla.
Luckily for the Yankees, Bonilla doesn't run that well to begin with. And he wasn't exactly tearing down the first base line, to be honest.
I think when you're in the kind of a slump that Bonilla is, Bob, and you hit one like that you think is going to be a base hit, it aggravates you all the more.
We've seen Martinez turn in a couple of good plays already today, and several in this postseason. One and one to Ripken. Ripken hit 26 homers during the regular year, hasn't connected in the playoffs. He's hit for average, not for power so far in the postseason.
Now again, here's a cut fastball from Pettit. This is a cutter inside, and Ripken really tied up on this ball. He had a bad swing at that, didn't have a full cut at it. Looked like one of those I don't want to excuse me jobs, and he's behind.
2-2.
The approach that Ripken takes as a hitter, Uke, is that he really is going out over the plate to get the ball, and he just tries to react to the ball inside, because most of the time pitchers are pitching him out over the plate and away. So that's where his approach is going. He's approaching the ball as if the pitch is going to be away, and then he just reacts to the ball inside.
Fastball got him. First strikeout for Pettit, a called third strike, and Ripken didn't like it one bit. No score after 2. It starts it against Erickson in the third and cuts and misses. In basketball, Joe, you hear a lot about an established star getting the benefit of the calls. How about a guy like Ripken at the plate?
Well, when I first came to big leagues, there was no doubt that guys like Willie Mays, Hank Aaron, you didn't see them called out on third strikes. People didn't come to see them called out on third strikes. They came to see them to hit. And there's no doubt they got the benefit of a doubt more than other hitters. And the same thing with pitchers. If a pitcher stays on the outside corner, Juan Marichal, etc., they would get the benefit of a doubt.
1-2. I would guess part of that isn't just out of respect for what the person has accomplished, but also common sense. If Ted Williams or Wade Boggs, someone like that with a great eye, is at the plate, maybe the umpire figures if he takes it a fraction off the plate, he's got as good an eye as I do.
Well, that's true.
I'll tell you what, you can't tell an opposing pitcher that. Go tell that to a pitcher about Boggs or any of those other guys who have that reputation as being great strike hitters. Anything an inch or two off the outside corner, and hitters those guys supposedly don't offer. As you look at Ripken, he's still a little hot about that.
He is very upset.
The 2-2 pitch. Full count to Leyritz.
But you know, Joe, you've seen.
That's right. That was just as close as the one on me.
Yep. But you've seen those pitchers, Joe, that have that reputation too. Those guys that are around there all the time, they get a lot of called strikes that are basically off the outside or off the inside part.
And this ball is hit well, sounded good off the bat. Bonilla looking up into the glare, but this one clears the scoreboard for an opposite field home run for Jim Leyritz. I don't know if Bonilla ever saw it, but it's a moot point because he had no play.
This reminds you of the home run he hit last year to win the game against the Seattle Mariners, Game 2, when they were playing Seattle in Yankee Stadium, and he hit the home run to right field.
But if you're talking about power, Leyritz is more the threat to hit the ball out of the park, which he did just there. Soho grounds to Alomar.
Well, that arm brace that he borrowed from Mo Vaughn finally works. I was going to say it swings better with Mo Vaughn in it than it does with Leyritz, but in this particular at bat, he did drive it to right field.
Well, Joe, you mentioned Game 2 against Seattle at Yankee Stadium off Tim Belcher, ending a memorable 15-inning game. Much of it played through the rain, over the leap of Jay Buhner and into the New York night. They left home with a 2-0 lead, but then couldn't come up with the extra win they needed in Seattle. Alomar diving, comes up empty, base hit for Jeter. Mariners won 3 straight, as you remember, at the Kingdome, then went on to lose to Cleveland in the LCS.
Remember at the top of the game when we talked about Erickson and where he has to be effective against the Orioles. He's got to be down with that sinking fastball. This was a fastball upstairs on Jeter, and he lines it in the right center field for a base hit. Well, what a series that guy's had too, Bob. We talked so much about Bernie Williams. This kid is unbelievable too.
They've got all kind of contraptions now, Bob, to keep you from hurting your wrist, keep you from hurting your hand when you're sliding. Unbelievable. You know, a lot of guys, when they slide, they put their right hand down because they slide on their right side, and that's some support for the wrist, so you will not jam your wrist when you hit the ground.
Saw a good example right there, Joe, coming back into the bag.
Jeter, Bernie Williams, who had a double in the first inning, has now hit safely in every postseason game the Yankees have played. Fakes the break and takes outside. We mentioned that 32 bases were stolen against Erickson. Not only is that the highest total in the league, but the percentage was way up there. 32 out of 36 attempts.
He has the only stolen base in the entire series. There have been some hit and runs, but no one has stolen a base.
A hit and run here might be helpful to Boggs. You know, he's struggling so much. Just get the infield moving. Historically, he's been the kind of hitter who can place the ball in that situation.
You know, last night he hit a couple of balls hard in the game, Bob. He had a couple of line drives to left that were caught. Hit them hard, but right at somebody.
A little tapper. Erickson can't come up with it. Now Zeal barehands it, but has no play. And at this point, Boggs will take it.
Well, sometimes that's all it takes to get a good hitter started. Just to get a base hit, any kind of way you get it, a blooper, a chopper, anything to get you started will sometimes start him on a streak. That sinker low and away, and it hits right in front of home plate. Erickson tries to field it, but he can't get it, and once it gets past Erickson, no chance for Zeal. But watch, he doesn't pump fake this time either. Normally you might pump fake to first base to try to get the guy off, but we're not going to see that from Zeal in this situation. Actually, Erickson got off the mound pretty quickly, just did not get down in time. And Zeal, no chance. And you're right, no pump. He's not going to pump right there, guys.
So now 2 on with 1 out for the most dangerous hitter in the Yankee lineup, Bernie Williams. Double to center his first time up.
The Orioles have a pattern they use with Williams, but they have not been able to be consistent with it. They've thrown him inside, and when they've gotten the ball in there, they've been successful, but they have not been able to do it consistently enough to keep him from hurting them.
On the first pitch, a roll to Alomar, and right through his legs. The Gold Glover has it go right through the wickets. Jeter comes home. Boggs to third. He committed only 11 errors all year. Only 4 each of the 2 previous seasons. He's won 6 Gold Gloves.
All right, you're going to see what happens here. What he's trying to decide is whether to tag Boggs or to flip to second base. Now watch. Boggs is coming into the picture. He's trying to decide right there what he's going to do, and he doesn't make up his mind quick enough, and he doesn't catch the ball out in front. And see where he's catching the ball? Back underneath him. If he had already made up his mind he was going to second base, he would have caught the ball out in front. You've got to catch the ball out in front. Now watch where he catches it. Back underneath him. You lose sight of the ball when you get it back that far. You can't follow the ball. You have to reach out in front and catch the ball.
Joe, he didn't even look like he was in a good position to make a throw to Ripken at second.
That's what I'm saying. He was deciding whether to try to come and tag Boggs or not. He really didn't know what to do. I shouldn't say he didn't know what to do. He had not made up his mind what he was going to do. But you have to catch the ball out in front.
So a run scores on the error. No RBI, of course. But what's important is that it's 2-0. And Erickson is still in deep trouble. First and third, one out. And Martinez takes outside for a ball. There are more than a few Yankee fans here. It's not that long a drive, a little over 3 hours, or you can take the train down. And you'll hear at least a smattering of applause when things go well for New York. The runner breaks from first. It's hit to Alomar again. He's coming to the plate to try to get Boggs, and he's out.
I think what you'll see here, Boggs, is a late break from Boggs at third base. There's no way he should be out on this play. Alomar is playing back. If Boggs breaks right now, there's no way Alomar could come to the plate. But he did not break right away. Alomar looks up, sees him coming to the plate. Nice tag, nice throw by Alomar. Nice play by Parent. You see Parent out in front of the plate. I don't really know why, but he's out in front of the plate. He has to dive back and tags the sliding Boggs.
You know, if Parent is out in front of the plate like that, Joe, that's why he got the short throw from Alomar. I mean, if he's back by a step, he gives him a better throw to handle. But he did make a heck of a tag.
Strike one to Fielder, and another look at the play at the plate.
And again, here's Parent way out in front of home plate. Look at this. He has to reach back to tag the sliding Boggs. Now, if he stays in his position after the ball was hit, Alomar makes the throw. There's no way Boggs can get near the plate.
Well, the infield was playing for the double play, but Bernie Williams was off on the pitch, and that eliminated that possibility. And if in fact the Yankees had the contact play on and Boggs just broke late, here's a drive to deep left center. This ball is on its way. This ball is gone. Well, if there's any sting felt by the Yankees over Boggs breaking late, that takes care of most of it.
We've talked about how great Bernie Williams has been in this series. Well, the big fella has been awesome as well. Not just with the home run ball, but getting key base hits, putting the ball in play when he needs to. He's done everything that the Yankees could expect of him this series. And he tries to get this fastball inside. He doesn't get it in enough. And you can see he fights it off a little bit, but that helps to be real strong like Fielder is. And the ball is definitely carrying that way, although the wind is not blowing right now.
And a huge scene in front of the Yankee dugout. Just about everybody came out. They didn't wait for Fielder to get to the dugout to greet him. They all came out onto the dugout apron. They can smell a trip to the World Series. Up 5-0 in the third.
And I'll tell you one other thing, Bob. These guys genuinely like each other. This Yankee ball club. They are a close group of guys, and they all really pull for each other. They put their egos aside on this ball club, and that's one of the reasons that they have been so successful throughout the entire season.
Fielder had never hit Messina well until he went deep on him Friday night. He was 10 for 49 lifetime without a homer against Erickson until that last swing.
Well, if you take a look where that last pitch was, it's not hard to understand how he hit it and why he hit it. And as Joe said, hit it maybe around the trademark a little bit. Didn't get it all. But the ball is carrying well here today. Talked at the top of the telecast again about Erickson having to be downstairs, and he hasn't. He's been upstairs and he's been hurt.
This ball is sliced to left and out of play.
Let's not forget that they should have been out of the inning. It should have been a double play already turned, of which they did not turn, and that fastball did not get in enough. He was trying to get it in, but he didn't get it in enough. Remember one thing, the big fella doesn't have to get it all like me.
Oh, you got that right. You got that right. But again, in this ballpark, I mean, anybody is a home run threat in this ballpark, and especially during day games.
5 runs in the third. 4 of them unearned because of the Alomar error. And now this one is driven to deep center. Brady Anderson back to the track. Goodbye.
See the Yankee bullpen, they're having fun too. There were some people who said that the Yankees went downhill a little bit when they acquired Darryl Strawberry and Cecil Fielder, that they stopped doing the things that gotten them there, stopped hitting and running and things and waiting for the home run. I don't think that's true. These guys really added a lot to this ball club. They've added power, and you see the results of it right here.
Well, again, the pitch to Strawberry, and not to be repetitious, but you can't help it. Look where that last fastball was from Erickson, about belt high, out over the plate. This ball went over the Oriole bullpen into the Yankee bullpen, and there it is. You think they're not happy out there? Yep. Big blast by Strawberry.
Back-to-back homers from Fielder and Strawberry. 3 homers in the inning. 6-0 New York as the Yankees give the Orioles a dose of their own medicine. The O's with those 257 homers, most ever by a team in a season. But they've been out-homered in this series 10-6 by the Yankees, who out-homered them head-to-head during the regular season as well. And you think about, as Archie Corbin gets up, we haven't seen him yet in this series, you think about the makeup of this Yankee roster and how important Fielder and Strawberry are in this postseason. These are guys who weren't here when the year began and are so key as they point toward the World Series. Apparently O'Neill is retired, but they score 6 and lead Game 5 6-0.
The Orioles didn't turn a double play Friday night, cost them the ball game. They missed a couple of double plays in New York that hurt them in the series. This one is devastating. I mean, this is a ground ball. That's a routine 4 to 6 to 3 double play. It's messed up. And then Fielder follows with a home run, hits a home run, and yet another home run from Strawberry. And we talked earlier about Strawberry working with the big fella, Reggie Jackson.
As Murray starts it for Baltimore, and Pettit gets ahead of him 0-2.
Here's Darryl Strawberry. This is what he was talking about. Keep that front shoulder in. See how he stays in and drives that ball to left field. That's what Reggie was talking to him about in the batting cage. Reggie says, keep it out there a long time. That means keep that shoulder in. And then we get a lot. After the inning was over, Reggie comes down from the clubhouse to tell Darryl, see, I told you so. Just stay in there and it'll work for you. And that is the true Mr. October right there.
1-2 pitch to Murray. Bouncer to Jeter. Murray doesn't run very well anymore, and that's the first out. Pettit has retired 7 straight. Well, it occurs to me, seeing Reggie smiling broadly, that the moods have changed around the Yankees, and George Steinbrenner should be particularly happy. So the little dust-up that Reggie and George apparently had on the bus heading toward the airport to take them to Texas in the division series, that should be forgotten.
Should be.
I think I heard it was really blown out of proportion. It was nothing more than a fist fight.
Actually, Bob, I saw Reggie the next day, and I said, you were complaining about us giving the label of Mr. October away. I said, if you would have hit him 3 straight times, you would have won it back. He didn't think it was real funny.
We saw him in the office, Joe. A couple of days later, Reggie and George Steinbrenner and Bob Watson all talking friendly, and invited us in, and it was nice. Everything is fine, and I'm sure it's fine right now.
So just to save you some letters from the literal minded,
you don't have to save me any letters. I'm not worried about anything.
no fist fight. No fist fight. You closed that post office box you used to have, right?
Yeah, I did that.
Yeah, you're not getting those shipments anymore.
I said I was kidding.
Okay.
Everybody knows I'm kidding.
2-2.
It was a nothing deal.
Out of play. You mentioned Bob Watson.
Yeah.
For legitimate reasons or not, it is widely understood around New York that Watson's job is in serious jeopardy, which seems strange, but George Steinbrenner was particularly perturbed about the deal with Milwaukee that brought Pat Listash and Graham Lloyd over, and each had an injury. Lloyd, however, has been able to pitch in the postseason, Listash with the broken foot, and it was widely thought that only a trip to the World Series and maybe only a World Series victory could save Watson's job as general manager. I would think that whatever the odds are, they've improved for Watson.
I think Bob Watson is safe and sound in New York. I really do.
Meanwhile,
that man is.
He's on the verge, Joe Torre, of his first ever World Series appearance. Our Elliott Kalb researched this, and we believe that no man combining playing and managing has been in a big league uniform for more games as Surhoff becomes the first base runner against Pettit with a 1-out walk. No one has worn a big league uniform for more games without going to the World Series than Joe Torre. A handful have played more games without making it to the World Series, but only 4: Ernie Banks, Luke Appling, Buddy Bell, and Ron Santo. And another handful, including Gene Mauch, have managed more games without going to the World Series. But when you combine them, he has the longest drought, and it looks like it's going to end.
Well, and again, not to get ahead of ourselves here, Bob. We're only in the third. It's 6-0, and not to say the Orioles can't come back, but things are looking awful good for Joe Torre.
Well, remember, Gene Mauch was within 1 strike of going to the World Series when the Angels played the Boston Red Sox, and Henderson hit a 2-out, 2-strike home run, and the Red Sox won the series, and Mauch missed again.
Mark Parent, 2-0 the count. Well, when you talk about Mauch, you have to talk about one of the great baseball minds ever, but also who experienced as much heartache. The 64 Phillies, the 82 Angels up 2-0 in a best-of-5 series then in the ALCS against the Brewers. They lose all 3, including letting a lead go in Game 5, and then the 86 heartbreaker against the Red Sox. 3-0. Well, when you're ahead 6-0, the last thing you want to do is have your control desert you, or start trying to be too fine.
I think that's the key right there. Stop trying to be too fine. But he's also aware that the Orioles are a power hitting ball club, and that's what power does for you. You're never really out of a ball game. You know, if you're a team like normally the Yankees are and you get behind 6-0, it's tough for you to catch up because you normally do not hit a lot of home runs. The Orioles do hit a lot of home runs, so if they get a man on and hit 1 out, man on, hit 1 out, before you know it, you're right back in the ball game. That's what power helps you do.
Parent hit 9. Here's the 3-0 pitch. It's in there. Rafael Palmeiro, who had 39 for the year and has hit 2 in this series. Cal Ripken hoping for his first trip to the World Series since '83, but the odds look slim now. Parent lifts one into shallow center. Strawberry over with Williams, and it's Straw who takes it away from the center fielder, and that was not the play. That was Bernie Williams' ball.
That's a no-no. Bernie Williams said, hey, well, you hear me call that? I got it. I got it. I got it. Oh, yeah?
Well, you know, when you're 6'6", you're going to win the jump ball.
That was the only reason there wasn't a collision there, is because Strawberry is so much taller. He's feeling good out there, you know what I mean?
Yeah, feeling frisky.
Yeah.
3 home runs the last couple of games. And that one today was blasted.
Boy, he hit that ball hard over the Orioles bullpen in left center. You know, he's got such an easy swing too. I mean, if everything is right there, ball is out, ball was up, had a nice easy cut, and it jumped.
Headed to Anderson. A ball and a strike. Two and one. Kenny Rogers didn't have as big a lead as this, but he was in front early and frustrated his manager and pitching coach by constantly pitching behind in the count last night, walking guys, and he was out of there very early. Line drive, gloved by Soho. So Pettit had a little bit of control problems here in the third, but it didn't hurt him, and it's still 6-0 New York.
While we were away, the Yankees were discussing their problem. This is the only problem they've had the entire series is pop-ups, whether it be with their infielders or their outfielders not giving way. They have not communicated well on pop-ups.
Leyritz starts it against Erickson, and look at the catch.
Hey.
Nice play. That young lady down the right field line.
Absolutely.
Well, here's Leyritz. He started the 6-run Yankee third with an opposite field home run. The Yankees hit 3 homers in the inning. They sent 9 men to the plate. Davey Johnson, with his team down 3-1, was saying after the game last night that often, even when it looks like you're being dominated by the other team, games are close and they turn on little things. This is a 6-0 game. It's a blowout at this point, but it did turn on a little thing. The ball that went through Alomar's legs, and just prior to that, a little topper turned into an infield hit for Boggs, and the Yankees jumped on it when Fielder and Strawberry homered, and what could have been just a 1-0 lead suddenly exploded to 6-0.
The Orioles have had trouble completing double plays the entire series. Gave the Yankees a couple of runs in game 1. But obviously all that was overshadowed by the play in right field. But they made a couple of mistakes on double plays in Yankee Stadium. They missed a double play on Fielder here the first night that cost them a run. And they've botched a double play here today.
3-2 pitch to Leyritz, fouled at the plate. I think it's fair to say, and this is not meant as a knock on the Orioles. They're a terrific organization. They play in a great ballpark, and they're an exciting team with the 257 home runs. But they're closer to a one-dimensional team than the Yankees. The Yankees pitch better. Overall, they field better. And unless the Orioles outbash them, they're not going to beat them. And head-to-head, the Yankees have out-homered them this year. So they've outdone them in the one area where the Orioles truly excel. And that's why, that and their bullpen, is why the Yankees are 13-4 against Baltimore this year and on the verge of winning this series 4-1. And if, in fact, the Yankees do finish it here, the Orioles have no kick coming. They were the wild card team. They couldn't catch the Yankees over 162. They couldn't beat them head-to-head in the regular season. And so far, they can't beat them in this series. They had every chance.
It was even better than that, Bob. They came home 1-1 with 3 home games to be played here. So they were in control of their own destiny.
Leyritz goes down on strikes. 3rd strikeout for Erickson. Ought to have an interest in this. Shallow right field. Alomar out. Bonilla in. Alomar for the catch. Ranging far into right field.
And a nice running grab by Alomar. Again, Erickson settling down here a little bit in the 4th inning. Every time he's gotten hurt today, every time that somebody has hit one or juiced one on him, it's been a pitch upstairs. And again, I don't know if it's a little play or not. It's a big play as this game moves on. That easy double play ball, as Joe said, that should have been turned by Alomar and wasn't.
Subsequently, Alomar makes 2 good plays, pegging Boggs out at the plate, and then this catch in shallow right to retire Soho. Here's Jeter, robbed of a hit on a good play by Ripken, and then singled in the 6-run Yankee 3rd.
You know, and in this whole series, if you're looking at pitching versus hitting, I don't remember one instance where a hitter has really been backed off, Joe, after somebody's been hit, as in this case Erickson, where somebody has really been backed off. And again, I'm not talking about naming anybody, just to back them off, to give yourself a little bit more of the plate. It hasn't happened.
Yeah, you're talking about just a bit inside. Yeah. The 1-1. A ball and 2 strikes.
And again, here's that last offering from Erickson. This looks like a slider. It is. And he froze Jeter that time. Good for a strike. Just missed the outside there.
So Erickson, who generally has pitched well against the Yankees this year, 2 tough defeats and a no decision. ERA around 2 against them for the season, is pounded early in this game 5. 3 homers and 6 runs in the 3rd. Although this is one of those innings, or that was the last inning, was one of those frames where the pitcher catches a break in terms of ZRA. You can't let him off the hook completely when he gives up home runs to Fielder and Strawberry, but because of the Alomar error, 5 of the 6 runs are unearned. Hit slowly to the left side. Zeal decides to hold on to it with Jeter running, which was probably wise. An infield hit, and Jeter is now 2 for 3.
It's the second infield hit we've seen from the Yankees on plays like this. Jeter hits the top of this heavy sinker, doesn't get much on it, and he hits it in the perfect spot, because you can see Ripken tries to cut it off, but Zeal cuts in front of him, and he's not able to make the play. I mean, Zeal charges it, but there's nothing he can do here, and it's a base hit for Jeter.
Boggs struck out, had an infield hit. Jeter breaks. Parent throws. Safe at second with the steal.
And you can see there, Erickson did not even check him at first base. He just came up and threw to the plate. And that big windup, big leg kick, no chance for Parent. As you can see, he makes a pretty good throw, but Jeter's in there easily.
Leading 6-0. The Yankees stay aggressive with the steal. 2-0 to Boggs.
And Parent made a good throw. He got rid of the ball quickly. Joe said we talked earlier about the high leg kick that Erickson uses instead of that slide step that has become so popular for pitchers today. Instead of lifting that leg, just to slide it on the ground to give your catcher a better shot.
Boggs fouls it off.
Everything that Boggs has hit in this series, when he has played, with the exception of maybe 2 ground balls, everything else has been hit the other way. They've been going that way. He even seems to be pulling out a little bit, Joe, and reaching.
He's definitely lost his hitting zone.
3-1.
At least he had one to lose.
Yeah, how could you tell when you were in a
can't.
slump?
I mean,
how would you know what to change?
You can't. I mean, I'd be in a slump like in September, and it would stay with me all winter. It was right back in March when I went to spring training.
3-1 pitch, skied to left toward the line, hit well by Boggs, foul in the corner.
Take a look at Boggs' swing. We saw him keep his head down before. And let's see how he keeps his front shoulder in. He's kind of pulling out a little bit with his front shoulder. A guy like Boggs, that front shoulder needs to stay in there, because he's not trying to pull the ball. He's trying to hit line drives and stay on top of the ball. When the front shoulder flies out, you usually get a little more uppercut in your swing.
That's one of the better swings he's had in the series here. I mean, he had a pretty level cut at that ball, and it had some sting on it when it got into the seats right down below us.
Well, he used his hands very well on this pitch. Watch, he'll just throw his hands through the zone right here, right there. See how he threw his hands? He has not been doing that.
A bouncer to Alomar from the edge of the outfield grass. He throws Boggs out. No runs, a hit, and a stolen base. A man left. Still 6-0 New York. Bottom of the 4th at Camden Yards. Yankees 6, Orioles nothing. Game 5. New York leading the series 3-1. This is the first Baltimore hit on the first pitch. Zeal going the opposite way. A long single as O'Neill gets it back in from the edge of the track. The blimp is, of course, on hand. The Stars and Stripes. At the controls is Captain Larry Chambers from Lighthouse Point, Florida. Alomar grounded out his first time. Bluffs a bunt and takes a strike. Robbie was hitting .410 in early June, .352 at the All-Star break, wound up at .328 for the season. Lifts a high pop behind first. Soho in behind Martinez near the line to make the catch.
We're talking about that was the best swing Boggs has made the entire series. Let's take a look. Now watch how he gets the barrel of the bat out front. He has been having the barrel drag through. Watch, first thing you'll see right there, you see the head of the bat come forward. Whereas if you watch him, the other swings, the barrel of the bat was dragging. You'd see his hands come first, and then the barrel would come. You have to throw the barrel of the bat out front. And he did that on that pitch. In fact, the last 2 swings he had, he really threw the head out there well.
Palmeiro lines softly back to the box his first time.
Here's that last pop-up that Luis Sojo made the catch on. Watch this. It looked like he lost it momentarily. He sure did.
Yes, he did.
He sure did. No glasses on. I don't think he has glasses. He doesn't.
Left center field, Bernie Williams sprinting back near the fence, makes the catch as he crashes into the barrier. And now sprinting back to first is Zeal. There was no throw, but he slides in. Bernie Williams is hitting around .500 in the postseason with 5 home runs. But he's also done it on the base paths Friday night when he popped up at third base when the ball came out of Zeal's hands. And we've seen him make several outstanding catches in center field. It's been an all-round performance.
You're right. When Palmeiro hit this ball, he thought he had enough of it. And now he says, man, I can't believe it. That's the second time he's hit a ball out there in this series that he thought was going to go out.
Last night.
And you see right here, Williams just tracks it down. As you said, Bob, he is doing it all.
Palmeiro hit one last night that he thought was going to go and didn't.
Bonilla robbed of a hit on a diving play by Martinez at first base. His first time up. Palmeiro left to mutter to himself. Bonilla now 0 for 17 in this series. Pettit has allowed 1 hit and 1 walk and leads 6-0 as he works in the 4th. The 24-year-old might be the American League Cy Young Award winner. If he doesn't get it, Pat Henkin of Toronto probably will. At third base, Boggs goes the short way to Sojo for the force, and after 4 it remains. The Yankees 6, the Orioles nothing. A win away from the World Series. The Yankees set off 3 bombs in the 3rd inning, but the key to the whole inning was a little ground ball on what could have been a double play to end the inning. Alomar had it go through his legs, and a bit later Fielder hit a 3-run shot, and then back-to-back Strawberry follows with a solo. Leyritz had led the inning off with a home run. 6 of them score. 6-0 New York. The game summary brought to you by Hertz. For business, for pleasure, nobody does it exactly like Hertz. Bernie Williams leading it off as Strawberry and Jeter chat in a happy New York dugout. We're in the 5th. Williams has doubled and hit that ball that went through the legs of Alomar in the 3rd inning. There were runners at first and second. It was a potential double play ball. It went through the Gold Glover's legs. A run scored, and then 1 out later Fielder hit a 3-run homer. Strawberry followed with a blast of his own. 1-2. The fans here at Camden Yards have obviously grown quiet. These are great fans, and don't take our word for it. USA Today Baseball Weekly polled about 250 major league players on a variety of topics, about other players, about ballparks, about managers and general managers, and overwhelmingly the American League players voted the fans here as the best fans in the American League.
And it's not only because of this ballpark, Bob. I know Joe was talking yesterday about Memorial Stadium, which was a good ballpark. It was a good ballpark to work in, good ballpark to play. I mean, basically the same. And here, of course, you've got this magnificent new facility. But I like Memorial Stadium. I really do.
Well, it had a certain charm to it, sitting there in the neighborhood.
Yeah, it was great.
And Williams goes down on strikes. You know, we saw that play made by this young woman a moment ago, and no wonder. We now find out her name is Jen Weaver, no relation, we assume, to the former Oriole manager, but she led all NCAA Division I softball players. And there's the play she made earlier today with a batting average of .514 this past year, playing shortstop for Towson State, which is nearby Baltimore. She's from Elkton, Maryland, and also earned first-team academic All-America honors. For her career, she hit .411 in softball, and obviously knows how to play some defense too. Something of a raconteur with the fans along the railing there too, exchanging stories, it appears. One of the few people here who seems to be enjoying him or herself. There are some Yankee fans, but obviously the majority here pulling for the Orioles and disappointed at this point. A liner to center by Martinez. On comes Anderson for the catch. Last year, Davey Johnson had Cincinnati in the LCS against the Braves. Ron Gant and Reggie Sanders went cold on him at the worst possible time, and he's had some hitters, including Bonilla, experience that here against the Yankees. Fielder takes a strike at the knees and on the inside corner. He struck out his first time on a pitch in the dirt. The next time he took a swing against Erickson, it didn't come back. A 3-run homer. Down the right field line, Palmeiro over for a look, but out of play.
Remember earlier when we were talking about throughout this series, nobody has really moved anybody off the plate. Watch this one by Erickson to Williams, who's had a great series. That's the strikeout. That's the strikeout. He moved him off the plate with an inside fastball, then went away with this one, and Williams had a wave at it for the strikeout.
Two out, nobody on, and the 0-2 pitch. Well, he struck him out twice, but in between, Fielder had the 3-run shot to the bottom of the 5th. Still 6-0 New York. Ripken, Murray, and Surhoff against Pettit, who works with a 6-0 lead.
Bob, I think we're at the point of the ball game now where the Orioles have to put up 1 or 2 runs. You cannot start to run out of outs and everyone start going for the home run. That's why you see Davey Johnson's looking at his score chart. You may have to hit and run. You may have to do a couple of things just to get on the board, because if you wait until the 6th, 7th inning and then you have to put up big numbers to get back in this game, it's going to be very difficult, because the closer you get to the end, the more your hitters start to go for the fences, and that's not going to get the job done today.
I think you even get to a point, Joe, as you get later in the game, guys on the bench start thinking, hey,
yeah,
it's over. You know, it's over. You go up there and have your hacks, and you really do get down.
Andy Pettit has allowed them just 1 hit and 1 walk through 4. The 24-year-old is like another Yankee left-hander from Louisiana. Former Cy Young Award winner Ron Guidry. This Louisiana lefty might do it for the 1996 Yankee club. Lives in Texas now, but a Louisiana product. Stops his windup. If he wins the Cy Young Award, and generally it's thought that he's the favorite, he would have the highest ERA at 3.87 of anyone who's ever won the award in either league. But there are 2 things to keep in mind about that after this 2-1 pitch to Ripken, which is foul back. One, this is the year of the hitter in general, especially in the American League. The whole league ERA is around 5, so you have to factor that in. Also, he had 2 terrible outings. One of them was against Baltimore when he allowed 8 earned runs in an inning plus. Another came against Texas when he allowed 10 runs in 2 2/3. If you eliminate those 2 outings, and that's a big if, but if you eliminate those 2 outings, his ERA is 3.19 in his other 32 starts. And that sounds more like a Cy Young Award winner. Hit to third, Boggs. Retires Ripken.
Pettit's job is not to have a low earned run average. His job is to win ball games. and he won 21 ball games for a pennant winner. So that's what's important. An earned run average is just like a hitter's batting average. They're really personal things. Your job is to produce runs for your team. You know, to be a good player is not a measure of what you hit for batting averages. How many runs did you produce for your ball club? And he produces wins for his team. So that's what's important.
Another chance for Boggs. High throw, leaping as Martinez comes down on the bag in time to beat Murray.
You know, I agree with you, Joe. Earned run averages. I mean, you give me a guy who can soak up some innings for you, and you know, you're on a club like the Yankees. They're a good, solid ball club, or the Orioles, for that matter. I mean, a club that's going to hit a lot of home runs. As you look at that last play handled by Boggs at third, but those guys who soak up the innings, keep you in the game. There's the high throw pulled down by Martinez. Keep you in the game are the guys. I'll take them anytime.
You're right.
And no matter what happens or what he's done earlier this year, if he hangs on today and if the Yankees hang on, he's going to be in the World Series.
Even though he had that one terrible outing this year against the Orioles, it was a no decision for him. It was a wild, high-scoring game, and the Yankees got him off the hook. Liner by Surhoff, caught by Soho, a 1-2-3-5. So to complete the thought, Pettit is 3-0 this year and 5-0 lifetime against Baltimore, and leading 6-0 after 5 in what could be the pennant clincher. As we go to the 6th, Erickson is done. Arthur Rhodes is in, wondering if he can do any better against Darryl Strawberry, the first man to face him. It's not too early now, with the Yankees leading the series 3-1 and leading Game 5 6-0. To ask this question, what do you do with the very productive Strawberry and Fielder in the National League games, the middle three, games 3, 4, and 5, in either Atlanta or St. Louis? I would guess that Strawberry, you have no problem. You play him in the outfield and hope for the best defensively. But without the DH, would you bench Tino Martinez, let's say against a left-hander, against a Donovan Osborne or a Tom Glavine, with Martinez having driven in more than 100 runs just to get Fielder in the game at first base?
Well, that would depend on how Martinez is swinging the bat, because I think the real difference between the two, Cecil, as we've seen today, can strike out a couple of times, but he can also get you 3 runs with one swing. Martinez is not likely to do that. You know, not as likely to do that as Fielder is. So I would say it depends on how Martinez is swinging the bat, how well he's swinging it.
And again, you're going to lose some mobility at first base if you do play Fielder there, in difference to Martinez. We've seen what Martinez has done in this series. He's come up with some fine defensive plays. I tell you what, though, if Fielder stays the way he is now, Joe, and hits the way he's hitting now, I wouldn't be surprised at all to see him in there, and whether it be a right-hander or a left-hander for that matter, depending again how Martinez goes.
2-0 to Strawberry. If this holds up, I think a huge story for the season and for the series is the Yankees out-homering Baltimore in these games. The Yankees allowed the fewest home runs of any pitching staff in the league. Baltimore hit more homers than any one team has ever hit in any season in baseball history. The Yankees had the 3rd fewest home runs offensively. As a team, only Minnesota and Kansas City hit fewer than the Yankees. But they've hit 10 in this series to Baltimore's 6. And in the regular season, they hit 16 to Baltimore's 12.
One other thing to remember now, Darryl Strawberry and Cecil Fielder came to the Yankees late in the season. They didn't come at the beginning. They were not there the entire season. If you project Strawberry's 11 home runs over the course of the season, he would have probably hit well over 25 to 30 home runs. And the same thing with Fielder. If he would have been with the Yankees, he had 39 total. So if he would have been with the Yankees the entire season, that would have been a little different. So they are a much more powerful ball club now with Strawberry and Fielder in the lineup.
Another 3-2 pitch from Rhodes to Strawberry. Hit the other way. In front of it is Zeal, who had him played way off the line. Good positioning, throws him out.
He hit that ball hard as well. The ball was down and out over the plate, and he hits a screamer towards Zeal. Zeal is back deep, is the only reason he's able to make this play.
And no matter if they throw a left-hander, right-hander out there, and you talked about Strawberry and his shoulder and staying in there, no matter who they throw out there, when you find yourself in a groove and the ball's looking like a balloon, you really stay in there. And he did, hit it hard.
0-1 to O'Neill, who's 0 for 2, grounded into a double play, and then rolled out to Palmeiro at first base. Here's the book on Erickson: 5 innings, 7 hits, 6 runs, only 1 of them earned, All 6 came in the 3rd inning when he allowed 3 home runs. He walked 1 and he struck out 5. One and 2 to O'Neill. And Paul hits it up the middle and through for a base hit. He labors down to first.
British against the settlers.
I think that was just over here during the War of 1812 over at Fort McHenry here. Didn't Francis Scott Key write the Star Spangled Banner from the gondola of the blimp? Wasn't that the deal?
Billy Martin said, the late Billy Martin said he wrote it in a rowboat.
I don't know what that means, but undoubtedly an accurate quote. The ball gets by Parent.
Billy was upset about something that happened here in Baltimore, and he said that Baltimore at that time, and this was Billy Martin, this is not us. This was a Billy Martin quote a long time ago, and I'm sure some of the writers that still cover baseball would remember. He said that Baltimore was such a bad town that Francis Scott Key wrote the national anthem in a rowboat. But it's not a bad town. It's a great city.
O'Neill moving up to second after the ball got away, and the next pitch to Leyritz down the right field line toward the seats. Deep but foul. Baltimore sometimes called Charm City.
What'd you call it yesterday?
And
Balmer?
with good reason. Well, the natives
Balmer.
pronounce
Yeah.
it Balmer.
Balmer.
As if it were spelled B-A-W-L M-E-R. Not much to cheer about for these fans today. Down 3-1 in the series. 6-0 in Game 5. And Rhodes finishes Leyritz. 2 out with O'Neill at second in the 6th. Well, if you got the blimp, you might as well use it. They focused their cameras on Memorial Stadium, former home of the Orioles, present home of the Ravens until the new football stadium is built near Camden Yards. Ravens play the Colts tonight, don't they? That's got to have some meaning for Baltimore fans.
Probably a lot more than this series against the Yankees. New York has really played tough. But you know, this has been a great series. Only one blowout up until today. Yesterday's game 8-4. Other than that, every game in this series has really been tough. The Yankees with the ability to come from behind 5 times.
David Wells and Rocky Coppinger. Wells would have gotten the start, would still if somehow the Orioles can rally in Game 6 Tuesday night at Yankee Stadium against David Cone. But it would take something close to a miracle. Soho fouls it off. There has never been a deficit as large as 6 runs overcome in a league championship series game. There was a game in the late 20s between the Philadelphia A's and the Chicago Cubs where an 8-0 lead was overcome.
Was the blimp covering that?
Had to be.
I'm
Since
sure it
1920 was 1929 when the Philadelphia A's, Connie Mack's team, Al Simmons and all those guys, Mickey Cochran, hit hard through the hole, base hit for Soho. Let's see if they try to score O'Neill, who isn't running well. The throw comes through and he's gone at the plate. They tried to send him home on a 2-out single by Soho, and he is out. The info you crave on the 29 World Series between the A's and Cubs when we come back. The Yankees lead 6-0, but they've had 2 men cut down at the plate, and the question is, with O'Neill hurting the way he is, why send him here? A, he's likely to be out, which he is, and B, might get hurt, right?
Well, you know something? I don't know if he was out or not. This is a heck of an effort by Paul O'Neill with that bad hamstring. He's coming around third. Willie Randolph is sending him, and Paul O'Neill is saying, you got to be kidding. Check the slide. Got him. Very close play at the plate, and a good call by Rocky Rowe. It looked for a minute like O'Neill may have gotten the foot in there on the high tag by Parent, but I believe he got him. Rocky roll right on it, and O'Neill gone.
So O'Neill picks himself up, dusts himself off,
starts all over again.
Something like that. Thank you, Frank. That's life in the ALCS, with the Yankees leading 3-1 and leading 6-0 here in the bottom of the 6th. Chris Hoyles batting for Mark Parent. He'll stay in the game and catch. Here's what the Orioles are trying to do. Come back from 6-0. No team has ever done that in the division series or the LCS. Overcome a 6-run deficit of any kind, not just 6-0. Trailing by 6. No team has ever come back in the division series or the LCS. In Game 4 of the 1929 World Series between the Philadelphia A's and the Chicago Cubs, the Cubs led 8-0 going to the 7th, and the Phillies, playing at home, got 10 in the bottom of the 7th. That was a team that had Mickey Cochran and Jimmy Dykes, Jimmy Fox, Al Simmons,
Jimmy Durante,
all of the above. Lefty Grove on their pitching staff, Connie Mack their manager. Hoyles strikes out against Pettit to start the 6th. The A's won that series in 5 games. That's the biggest deficit ever overcome in a postseason baseball game. Eddie Murray, B.J. Surhoff, Rafael Palmeiro, Cal Ripken, all watching as their season slips away here.
Well, what a job Pettit has done in this game in difference to his other postseason stuff. He's been ahead for the most part. Good fastball. As Joe, you talked earlier about not that cut fastball, just the fastball. There's a little breaking ball right there. But for the most part, he's used that fastball and thrown it for strikes, and has really been around the plate. I mean, nothing in the dirt. Once in a while, I think he's thrown 2 pitches in the dirt thus far. But he's been around there. He's jammed right-handers, stayed away on the left-handers.
Brady Anderson skies one to center. Bernie Williams drifting over for the catch. So Anderson is now 0 for 3.
He has been great since the 3rd inning. I mean, when he looked like he walked the hitter in the 3rd, and he also fell behind the hitter. He has pitched great actually since the bottom of the 2nd inning.
When it comes down to Pettit and Henkin for the Cy Young Award, some people will say Henkin threw more complete games. He had a little bit better ERA. This ball is drilled by Todd Zeile on the first pitch to him, and the Orioles are on the board on Zeile's 3rd home run of this series. A 2-out shot in the 6th to make it 6-1.
Well, if you're Jim Leyritz, you go to the mound and you say, hey, we have a 6-0 lead. It takes 5 more solo home runs before they tie us. So don't worry about that one. Just keep the Orioles off the bases, and you'll win this ball game. That's basically what he's saying. Well, he said, I made a mistake. He got a fastball up and over the middle of the plate. But being honest, again, it takes 5 more solo homers just to catch up.
I agree.
And that's the way you have to think about it when you're a pitcher in this situation.
2 men out here and a fastball up that he hit out.
Alomar takes a strike. So Joe Henkin was better than Pettit in a few statistical categories, but some people will say Pettit pitched in a pennant race and the Blue Jays were not in a race, and that has to be taken into consideration.
There are a lot of different points of view about, you know, postseason awards. You know, MVP is one of those. There's really not a tangible way of viewing who should be the MVP.
Pop back and out of play.
Nor Cy Young Awards or Manager of the Year. All these things are very subjective. And I'll tell you what, I mean, it's just one writer may sit down and he says, well, who won the most games? And he'll go that way. Someone else may say, well, who pitched in the toughest situation, pennant contention, etc. and he may go that way. But really, the awards do not say Cy Young Award for the winning team or the pitcher on the winning team. Same thing with MVP. It does not say most valuable player on a winning team. It says the most valuable player in the league.
Boggs behind the bag. Long throw with Alomar running, gets him. The homer by Zeal gives the Orioles their first run, but they still trail by 5 after 6. Top of the order.
Can't beat the meal money.
Alan Mills is out of the bullpen now and bounces one to Derek Jeter as the inning begins. New York got all 6 of its runs in the top of the 3rd. They hit 3 homers in the inning. It began with a solo shot by Leyritz, later a 3-run blast from Fielder, followed by a solo off Strawberry's bat. Look at the arms on Cecil Fielder.
Isn't that
like the old village blacksmith. Man, be pounding an anvil with those babies.
You can pound the baseball.
Popped into shallow right. Alomar. Bonilla and Anderson behind him, but Robbie has the play. This is Andy Pettit leaving the mound after the last half inning. Derek Jeter high-fives him. There's Mel Stottlemyre as pitching coach, and Dwight Gooden in uniform, soaking up as much of this as he can, but not active on the Yankee roster for the postseason.
Pettit's still upset at that home run he gave up to Zeal. He's only allowed 2 hits in the game to the Orioles. But a fastball that he got upstairs and he hit it out.
New York could see its first World Series since 1986. It was the Mets then. So Strawberry's going to be back if the Yankees hold on, back in the World Series for the first time in a decade. Gooden won't participate, but he'll be in uniform. For the Yankees, it's been a half-decade longer. They've won 33 pennants and 22 world titles, but they haven't seen the Fall Classic since 1981, when they lost to Tommy Lasorda's Dodgers. Wade Boggs, of course, was in that 1986 World Series on the other side with the Red Sox. Never forget the shot of him weeping in the dugout after Game 7. Hit sharply to second. Alomar throws Boggs out for the second out in the New York 7. The Red Sox had a 2-run lead with 2 out and nobody on, and the Mets batting in the bottom of the 10th. And somehow the Mets put 3 together. Ball got by Gedman, then the error at first base. That was Game 6. After a rain out the next night, the Red Sox led Game 7 2 nights later, 3-0. And eventually that slipped away too. So Boggs may soon get another shot at that elusive World Series ring.
Somewhere Billy Buckner saying, I thought I'd made it through this series without a mention.
He's a hitting coach with the White Sox.
Bernie Williams trying to find the gap. It's cut off by Anderson, so it'll be just a long single. But it's Bernie's second hit of the game. He had a double earlier. So he remains at 500 for the series. 2 for 4 today.
Well, we talked about keeping your front shoulder in. He basically swings with his upper body. He doesn't really use his legs to drive, but he stays right there most of the time, hits on a good platform, and that's why he's such a good hitter. Not a lot of movement. The quieter you can keep your body, the better the hitter you're going to be.
Tino Martinez. And there goes Williams on the first pitch. Parent with the throw. It's high, no chance. He steals it. Make it Hoyles on the throw. He replaced Parent behind the plate after pinch hitting for him.
Well, there's Chris Hoyles, and I think he just said he had a big jump. Ripken took this throw in front of the bag. There is Williams. He did have a good jump. Hoyles made a pretty decent throw, but look at Ripken. He took the throw in front of the bag. No chance on Williams whatsoever. He had a great jump, took a look back at Hoyles, and steals it easily.
Williams had 17 steals for the regular season. Surhoff racing toward the line, but this one's out of play.
Some people may wonder, why are the Yankees stealing bases? They stole a base after they were ahead 6-0, and now they try to steal a base 6-1 ahead. Look, this is for the World Series. This is for all the marbles. You never have enough runs that you can feel comfortable with. Maybe during the regular season you're ahead by 6 runs in the late innings, you may not steal. But right here you try to get as many runs as you can get and forget about everything else. You're trying to win an American League pennant.
The 0-2 pitch. And down goes Martinez. A single and a stolen base for Williams. He's left at second. On to the bottom of the 7th, 6-1. The sun may be setting on the Orioles season. They come up after the fans take their stretch in the bottom of the 7th, trailing 6-1. Palmeiro, Bonilla, and Ripken against Andy Pettitte. They have 2 hits against him. Zeal has both of them. An opposite field single in the 4th and a long home run in the 6th. Palmeiro's 0 for 2.
If you're the Orioles, again, you need to just try to get a couple of runs here just to try to get back in the ball game. You have 9 outs left. You got to use them to the best.
Fly ball right center field. Bernie Williams calls O'Neill off. Not that Paul could have gotten there the way he's running, and he makes the catch.
You know, a big part of the scene here at Oriole Park is that guy right there. But if the Orioles don't come back and win this thing, it's back to the pet shop for the winner.
That's a little cold, man. That's a little harsh.
Not in that pet shop.
Bonilla takes one low.
They love that guy here. What ball club doesn't have a mascot? Do you know of one now?
Yankees don't have a mascot.
They don't? Red
Sox don't have a mascot. Just to name a couple. Bonilla pops it up, shallow right, and the look on his face as he tosses the bat down. Now 0 for 3 in this game, 0 for 19 in the series, and 3 for 34 in the postseason. A nightmare.
And this is what I was talking about, Bob. All of a sudden, Palmeiro's hitting the ball in the air. Bonilla, everyone is trying to go for it, trying to hit the ball out of the ballpark now. When you start running out of outs, a lot of times people do not use their outs properly. And you see here, Bonilla hits a fly ball to right field. Palmeiro hits a fly ball to right field. They're all going for it.
Ripken takes a strike. He's struck out and grounded out.
And the other thing is Pettitte throwing strikes, Joe. I mean, he's in there now. He's in a zone now and in a groove where he's in front of just about every hitter.
Out of play on September 19th. For whatever this bit of past history may be worth, on September 19th, the Orioles trailed the Yankees 6-1 at Yankee Stadium after 4 innings. They won the game 10-9. They trail 6-1 now, but they have fewer outs left to them. We're in the 7th with 2 out and nobody on.
Another thing that was significant on that date, Bob.
Yes.
My birthday.
And I didn't send a card.
And you're right.
Happy
because
birthday,
I didn't
Joe.
know until now.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate that.
Won't forget it next year.
The 1-2 pitch. Brady Anderson, a glorious season for him. 50 home runs when he had never hit more than 21 in a season. Palmeiro, many moments of heroics, including in the postseason. But no smiles in that dugout right now. Ripken swings and misses, didn't get a piece of it. Leyritz has to throw it down to first base to Martinez to make it official. It's a 1-2-3 7th. The Orioles have just 6 outs left. Tom Clancy, the hunt for Red October man, is one of the minority owners of the Baltimore Orioles. Lives in this city. Frequently see him at the games. But right now, the Orioles' clear and present danger is being eliminated. Fielder at the plate. Fielder delivered the biggest blow, a 3-run shot. They checked with Rich Garcia to see if he committed himself on the swing. A 3-run homer in a 6-run Yankee third. Leyritz and Strawberry both connected with nobody on in that inning. Leyritz started the rally. Strawberry finished it. And Fielder's the big blow in the middle. Andy Pettitte, the beneficiary of all this.
I was going to say, Bob, you know, no matter what you say about Alomar and the air and the base hits and the home runs, they're all big time. But it's been a super ball game for Andy Pettitte after a couple of tough outings in the postseason.
A walk to Fielder to start the Yankee 8th, and a look back at the 3rd. Leyritz leading off against Erickson. A scoreless game at this point. Opposite way over the out-of-town scoreboard. Now a double play that could have gotten them out of the inning, only 1-0. It goes through Alomar's legs. The inning is prolonged. A bit later, Fielder drives this one out in left center. Next batter, Strawberry. A titanic shot. 6-0. Meanwhile, a pitching change. Strawberry will be the hitter when we come back. Alan Mills on his way out. Strawberry to the plate, taking a strike from Randy Myers. And speaking of Fox, there's Andy Fox at first base, running for Cecil Fielder, who never had to run all day. He struck out twice, walked, and trotted around on a 3-run homer. Now he's done and can savor what he's contributed. Strawberry the opposite way. Deep left field, but not deep enough. Sorhoff on the track for the catch. Fox tags at first and dives in at second on an alert play. Another at bat for Paul O'Neill, and he fouls Myers' first pitch off. Or if an Oriole had hit it, perhaps, and he could take it away from a Yankee fielder. So I guess the message is now clear to all little leaguers. Take your glove to the park. By all means, catch any foul ball or home run you can once it is over the fence.
Do you believe that?
I don't know. It's just a public service
you got
announcement. That's all.
That'll never happen.
There's Rich Garcia. A postseason he won't soon forget. 2-2 to O'Neill. You know, the best view in all the replays of the ball Jeter hit, the fan reaching out, Tarasco under it, was the view from center field toward the right field line. As it turned out, that was where it was clearest that interference had occurred. Garcia was on the other side, looking from right field towards center. No denying you missed the call, though. And he fessed up to it as soon as he saw the replay. That helped the Yankees win game 1. They're now on the verge of taking the series 4-1. Leading as they bat in the 8th, 6-1 in game 5. And a walk for O'Neill. Now let's see if they run for him at this stage. Nobody popping out of the dugout.
Well, I think you're back to that loyalty statement I made yesterday from Joe Torre. These guys helped him win the division. Now he wants them to be on the field if they get a chance to clinch the championship today.
A ball to Leyritz. You know, you look at Joe Torre, and if you didn't know him, the expression on his face, he often appears to be glowering. Looks like he could be an extra in a Scorsese movie. But this is one of the most gracious, well-spoken, warm-hearted people you'll ever meet in sports. And although Oriole fans are disappointed, whether you have a rooting interest or not, you must be happy for what seems to be about to happen to this man after such a long wait. It's been a glorious season for him in terms of baseball. but a lot of heartache and concern personally. His older brother Rocco passed away at midseason, and another brother, Frank, who played with the Milwaukee Braves, who gave Joe Torre one of his World Series rings from those 1957-58 teams. Frank still in Columbia Presbyterian Hospital, hanging on every pitch of all these postseason games. The runner breaking from second, but Leyritz fouls it off, and Andy Fox will have to come back. Frank Torre is still waiting 10-11 weeks now, waiting for the right match for a heart transplant. And every day before and after the games, Joe Torre is on the phone to Frank Torre, and if the Yankees win it and if they're going to the World Series, I would guess even before he talks to the press, even before he's interviewed on national television, he's going to his office to call his brother. Frank Torre is on the cover of the Sunday Daily News in a story written by Mike Lupica in New York today, quoted as saying, "Other than my family, these baseball games are the most important thing in the world to me." But of course, these games are both baseball and family. A 3-2 pitch coming to Jim Leyritz with 2 on and 1 out. The runners break. It's ball 4. The ball gets away. Fox rounds third, but Hoyles chases it to the backstop, and the bases are loaded. We asked Joe Torre, would he have ever thought early last season when the Cardinals fired him, if he would have ever thought, A, that he'd manage again, and B, that he'd be this close to the World Series. Here's Joe.
I thought at that time when I was fired that was my last baseball job. Coming home to New York, being offered this job was a bonus for me. I figured I'd be broadcasting, maybe sitting over there where you are, and working for someone. But to be given an opportunity to manage a club like the Yankees, who you know they're going to spend money, second place is not an option. You know, George Steinbrenner, so what? I mean, you know, everybody's saying, watch out for George. Yeah, I'm tougher on myself than anybody can be on me. And just to get the opportunity to be here in postseason, knowing that the Yankees are going to spend money to put players on the field, that was a great opportunity. And as I say, it's a bonus for me.
And the Yankees looking for some bonus runs here. They've loaded the bases on 3 walks with 1 out in the 8th. They count 0-2 to Soho. And a called strike 3. Rocky Rowe punches Soho out. Nobody could have handled what has often been the Bronx Zoo any better than Joe Torre this year. Little turmoil around this club. Some of it has to do with the makeup of the roster, but most of it has to do with the steady hand at the helm of Joe Torre.
Well, in talking to a lot of the people who cover the Yankees, Bob, and writers who have covered this postseason, probably to a person, they've all said the same thing about Joe Torre. Never knew he was this nice a guy. Never knew he was this low key. Never knew he could handle a situation in New York, which we know is a tough situation to handle. It's really the big time. And I mean, ask his players about him. That's how you find out about Joe Torre. Ask his players about him.
Myers about to deliver a 1-1 pitch to Jeter. Joe Torre has what too few people in sports seem to have, a sense of perspective. He wants to win very badly, but he has some sense of proportion about it too. Look at some of those faces. Charlie Hayes was in Pittsburgh. Darryl Strawberry was even farther from the World Series. He was with the St. Paul Saints. Cecil Fielder was with the Tigers. Doc Gooden was suspended from baseball. Joe Torre had been fired by the Cardinals. Don Zimmer had walked out of the Colorado Rockies dugout and said he was done with baseball. Tino Martinez was in Seattle a year ago. There's Zim in baseball since 1949. They can taste it now. Jeter cuts and misses at what could have been ball 4.
And I think when you're talking about managers, any manager for that matter, You surround yourself with a good coaching staff, and most of the problems that are prevalent on some clubs are handled by the coaches. The manager say, hey, I don't want to talk to him. I don't even want to hear it unless you can handle it.
A 3-2 pitch with the bases loaded and 2 out. Runners go, and it's popped up right side. Alomar into shallow right with Bonilla closing in on him, and Robbie's going to make the play. So it doesn't get any worse for the Orioles. The Yankees don't add to their lead. After he pitched a couple of innings last night, Mariano Rivera was listed as available today by Joe Torre. Certainly for no more than an inning, maybe just for a batter or two. Remember, if the Yankees win it here, they've got almost a week. The World Series opens in the American League City on Saturday night. So they'd have a short trip home to New York and then plenty of time to rest, to await in their home ballpark either the Cardinals or the Braves. One last burst of energy from the fans at Camden Yards.
Well, when I talked to Joe Torre today about Rivera, he said, yeah, I think he can give me a piece. I don't know if that piece meant one hitter or one inning, but that's what he said.
Pettit to Murray in the bottom of the 8th. Fouled out of play. Murray has allowed only Pettit has allowed only 2 hits. Both to Todd Zeile, a single and a homer.
Bob, you were talking about Joe Torre, and you know, Bob Watson has been criticized for the trade that was made with Milwaukee and things that have gone wrong. But I tell you what, he's made a lot of great additions to this ball club, and the best addition was Joe Torre. The best thing that he did last year was go out and hire Joe Torre.
Tim Raines is in the game in left in place of Strawberry. If the Yankees win the pennant, there's Raines, who has never been in a World Series in 16 years in the major leagues. 37 years old. So this will be sweet for him as well. Down and into Murray.
Well, they need to remind Pettit it takes 5 solo home runs to catch up, make him swing the bat.
Well, this may be one of them. Way back in left. There's a solo home run.
The way you get in trouble and give a team a rally is by putting a couple of men on and then letting someone hit the ball out of the ballpark.
Surhoff has walked and lined out. He's hit Pettit well in his career. 8 for 17 prior to today. A liner to center. Bernie Williams is there. Surhoff has twice hit the ball hard and twice has lined out, in addition to his 3rd inning walk.
Well, this ball is hit right on the nose by Surhoff and right at Williams in center. Here it is one more time. This is a fastball right down the pipe and Surhoff right on it. Right at Bernie Williams in center. That ball was hit hard. Williams had to pull up quick.
Now here's Hoyles, who hit for Parent in the 6th and stayed in the game. Pettit had thrown only 83 pitches through 7. And a called strike. Murray, the DH, who homered to start the inning. What was a 6-0 Yankee lead is still a seemingly comfortable 6-2. Pettit pitched 2 complete games this year and has 5 total in his 2 big league seasons. A lot of that has to do with the Yankee bullpen. Games that he probably could have completed were completed by Wetland or Rivera.
I thought the two games that Pettit and Cone pitched in New York were really psychological games for the Yankees. They saw two guys go out there with less than their best stuff and really battle. And I think that really set the tone for the Yankees. And make no mistake about it, Reggie Jackson's presence means something to the Yankees too, because they lost the second game and they were coming here and Reggie said, we've beaten them there every time, we'll continue to beat them. And I think that just to remind his team of that really helped. There's Reggie.
Reggie wearing a Yankee cap and windbreaker over his shirt and tie.
That's an anticipation of some of the bubbly being thrown around the clubhouse, I'm sure.
Protecting those good street clothes.
Yes.
2-2 with one out and nobody on and a run home in the Oriole eighth. Still looks good on him. Full count. Boggs. Tough hop, but he handled it, and he throws Hoyles out.
And that's what you want from Pettit. He can get a little help from his friends. He got some help from Bernie Williams on the line drive by Surhoff, and he gets some help from Boggs on this one hopper by Hoyles.
It was hit right at him, Joe, but it came up wickedly.
But remember, we've talked about how good these Yankee infielders have been this entire series. I mean, that's another example right there. That was a tough play. Wade Boggs makes the play and makes it look easy. Jeter has played well. Soho has played well. Duncan, Martinez, the entire inner defense.
Anderson, who's 0 for 3. It looks like it'll be 0 for 4. Soho throws him out. Murray starts the inning with a homer. But after that, they go 1-2-3. It's 6-2 as we go to the ninth. Boggs, Williams, and Martinez, the scheduled hitters. And in the bottom of the ninth, Todd Zeile, Randy Alomar, Rafael Palmeiro in the Orioles' last chance. Will it be Pettit, or is he done?
Well, I think they may send him out there, but it depends on what happens here, I think, in the top of the ninth.
Into shallow right for a base hit for Boggs.
Joe, you know, looking at Boggs in his last 3 at-bats, he looks like he's starting to come around a little bit, getting that head out in front, as you said before. Even the balls that he's hitting foul, I mean, behind home plate, he's having a good swing. Everything is there. And, you know, with a couple of days off now and getting himself straightened out, he could be a factor. He really could, to get himself back in the groove again.
Well, we talked about the top ball he hit down the third baseline for a base hit. May have got him started, just helps you psychologically. And he has swung the bat better since that time.
Bernie Williams, a double and a single in this game. Turned around to the right side against Myers, the guy he victimized for the game-winning home run in the bottom of the 11th in the series opener at Yankee Stadium. Two balls and a strike. The ball gets away from Myers on the return toss, but Boggs isn't going anywhere. Wetland's up now.
Yeah, I was talking with Tony Cloninger before the game today about Mariano Rivera's performance in last night's game. I said, was he backing off a little bit at the opening of that inning when they got the 3 base hits? Tony Cloninger said, yeah. And he said he'll never do it again. He said, I really got on him. He said there's no sense for a guy like Rivera with the kind of stuff that he had to try to be spotting the ball, is what Rivera was trying to do. He was trying to ease up a little bit and make spot pitches like somebody else has to do who doesn't have that kind of velocity.
Williams asking for time. You know, we mentioned last night that Williams' ambition is to play Carnegie Hall as a classical guitarist. Peter Gammons of the Boston Globe told me before the game that while he hasn't played Carnegie Hall, he has performed with the Boston Symphony. In the air to right. Bonilla started in. He now goes back. And at the edge of the track, he makes the catch. So Williams settles for a 2-for-5 night. Tim Raines in the foreground. His playing time could be severely reduced in the World Series with the way Strawberry has sizzled here.
Yep, and it's not hard to understand why. Isn't this something? I mean, when you get down to crunch time, how certain players and in certain situations answer the bell more often than not. I mean, Strawberry with big home runs in this series, and Cecil Fielder, and the thing about that is the fact that there was a little bit of controversy concerning both of those guys as to who was going to DH in the series in New York.
Bernie Williams, the likely MVP of this series. Andy Pettitte, the winner of the clinching game if the Yankees hold the Orioles off in the ninth. Charlie Hayes moves into the on-deck circle. Andy Fox, who had run for Cecil Fielder, was technically occupying that slot on the batting order as the DH. But Torrey wants to get the at-bat for Hayes, who could be of more use to him in that role later on. 2-2. Full count as we look time and again at Torrey. His expression seldom, if ever, betrays what the situation is. It's pretty much the same as it was early in the series. And he is still intently concentrating on this game, of course, as are his coaches. But you can't blame him if his mind wanders a little bit and looks back over the whole journey. Martinez pokes this one to left. Surhoff comes on to make the catch for the second out. He's been a batting champion. He's been an MVP, a 9-time All-Star in the National League, but never to the World Series. And as you heard when we played that slice of the interview we had with him a few days ago, he said the reason he came to the Yankees wasn't just to manage again. It was for a shot at the World Series, the one piece of the puzzle missing from his major league career. If some club that didn't have a reasonable chance to contend had offered him a shot, he probably would have preferred to be a broadcaster.
Which he did for a couple of years and did a heck of a job in California. Yep.
Bob, I was fortunate enough to play in 4 World Series, and I tell you what, it is special, and especially for someone that has dedicated his entire life to baseball. You know, both from being a little kid, growing up, playing in the major leagues, being a broadcaster, whatever, and being a manager. It is special. I mean, the World Series is why you play this game. It's the reason you do the extra push-ups in spring training. It's the reason you run the extra sprints in hopes that you'll be able to perform in the Fall Classic.
Charlie Hayes pops one behind second base. Ripken and Alomar. On to the bottom of the ninth. Last at bat for the home team, but in the visitors clubhouse, the plastic is up in anticipation of the champagne spray. In 2 of the 5 games in this series, Joe Torre's starter has given him an outstanding performance. Jimmy Key in game 3 and Pettitte tonight through 8 innings. And now they'll turn it over to Wetland to try and finish it with a 4-run lead. Like last night, not a save situation for him. There are his figures for the year. In the postseason, the Yankee relievers are a combined 5-1 with 3 saves and a combined ERA of 1.08. They were terrific during the regular season. In the postseason, pretty close to invincible as a group. Boehringer gave up a home run to Gonzalez in the Texas series. Nelson was touched for that important 2-run homer by Palmeiro in game 2 of this series. The rest have really done the job. And the 2 2/3 scoreless innings from Graham Lloyd becomes very important because he's the only left-hander Joe Torre has in his bullpen. And you have to wonder about this too if the Yankees make the World Series. When you see what David Weathers did as Leyritz adjusts the chest protector, you see what David Weathers did during this postseason. Yesterday he pitched 2 2/3 scoreless innings in relief of Rogers, although he did allow a couple of inherited runners to score. You have to wonder, guys, if Joe Torre has to use a 4th starter in the World Series, whether that 4th starter might not be David Weathers instead of Kenny Rogers.
Well, they've talked about it, Bob. They've talked about the possibility of Rogers and working out of the bullpen, and that's probably a probability now. But I think you brought up a key point just a moment ago when you talked about Graham Lloyd. I really do. I mean, here's a guy that had a lot of heat on him, took a lot of garbage from New York fans. But then when it was on the line, I mean, here in postseason, and Joe Torre again showed a lot of guts in saying, this is my guy, this is the guy I'm putting on, and he responded. And you might say 2 2/3 is not all that much, but it's big time for Graham Lloyd.
Wetland to Zeal. 3-0. Ripken hoping the inning is prolonged long enough for him to get a swing at it. Surhoff thinking the same. A called strike, 3-1. Zeal is fouled out, singled, and homered for the Orioles' first run. Later, Eddie Murray hit one. They trail 6-2. The Yankees got all 6 of their runs in the 3rd. 3 homers, Leyritz, Fielder, and Strawberry. And a walk to Zeal to start the ninth. The last thing Wetland had in mind. Here comes Roberto Alomar, whose error in the 3rd stands as the single key play in the game. They could have gotten out of the inning with only 1 run on the Leyritz homer. 1st and 2nd, 1 out, potential double play ball goes right through his legs. The inning is prolonged, and the Fielder and Strawberry homers follow not much later. Ball 1, and Leyritz wants to talk this over with Wetland.
You know, we've watched Wetland throughout the year, and it seems as though he never makes it easy. It's never an easy inning for him. As far as you're talking 1, 2, 3, it's a base on balls, be pitching behind on certain hitters. And here's Joe Torre out now talking with Rocky Rowe and wants Rowe to go out there to see if Wetland is all right for whatever reason.
And I guess he's checking with Rowe to make sure that this doesn't count as a trip to the mound if in fact they're checking on something related to Wetland's health.
Right, exactly. He wanted to make sure that he was okay physically, and so that's why he took Rocky Rowe out there with him. And again, this would not be charged as a time, to the mound. Let's take a look at there's Wetland's hat, and we talked about it several times. His response was, it's something I've always done. He said they issue a hat in spring training. I use it. I put all my work into it. He said, so I don't want to get rid of it. He said, I use it for the entire season. He said, I've always done that, but all of a sudden it's become a big deal.
You could see a middle infielder or a guy who's running around the bases having a hat that dirty and battered. But how does a pitcher get one in that kind of shape? 1 and 2 to Alomar.
Well, he puts all of his work in spring training, all his running, all of his fielding practice, everything he does, he wears that one hat. And he says it has a lot of work in it, and he doesn't want to get rid of it.
His 1-2 pitch. A bouncer to Soho. Has a little trouble getting it out of his glove, and they'll have to settle for 1. It would have been tough to turn with Alomar running from the left side of the box anyway.
You're right, Bob. I don't think they have a chance for a double play on this ball. So, again, had a little problem. He's a little upset at himself. But watch this. Again, a little in between hop for him. And again, he couldn't get it out of his glove. There's Jeter at second. Zeal coming in. No chance for a play on Alomar at first. But they get the lead man. That's all they were concerned about. Once Soho knew he couldn't turn the DP, he made sure he gave Jeter a good, easy throw at second. Nice throw to handle.
Well, they should actually be playing a little deeper, which they are now. You don't play double play depth in this situation. You really only want to make sure you get 1 out every time the ball is hit. You don't want to play a double play position where you're in shallow and a ball goes past you. So you play like there's no one on first base. And if you have to go to first base to get the out, that's okay too. You will trade any bases now for an out.
0-1 to Palmeiro is a called strike. Again, the Yankees need 2 more outs, but assuming they get, not only does the whole team get 6 days of rest, especially the pitchers, but it's key for guys like Wade Boggs with a bad back, especially Paul O'Neill with the hamstring. Mariano Duncan sat out tonight's game with a sore knee. They all get almost a week to nurse those injuries before facing either the Braves or the Cardinals at Yankee Stadium on Saturday.
And I guarantee you a lot of the other players have bumps and bruises too. Over the course of the whole season, you develop that, but you learn to play with that. So it will help a lot of them. I mean, you're always better off if you can clinch your pennant quicker than your opposition does.
The 1-2 pitch, called, strike 3.
Good breaking ball right on the inside corner. He threw a couple of fastballs away. And watch this, a breaking ball right on the inside corner. Nothing that Palmeiro can do with it. Take another look. Breaking ball right on the corner. Strike 3 called.
The guy who could be the last out is Bobby Bonilla, hitless in the series at 0 for 19. They don't challenge the runner, and so he just trots down to second base. Robbie Alomar in. Palmeiro, after what was very likely his last at bat. Anderson and Hoyles in the air to deep left, very deep left. At the fence, Raines runs out of room. How do you like that? 2-run homer for Bonilla.
Well, if you're the Yankees, that's why you wanted him to get a hit earlier, because, you know, a good hitter, the more times he goes over, the more he becomes due. And Bonilla is a good hitter.
Now again to the opposite field here at Oriole Park. And again, the ball really carrying. And Bonilla hits it out of here. 2-run blast. Here it is one more time. That's not a bad pitch by Wetland. Fastball down low and away. And he went out and got it and knocked it out of here. Wetland watching it go. He knows. He knows it's got a good chance to get out. And it did. Big blast by Bonilla.
So it's 6-4. And how appropriate is this? Now it's Ripken trying to get on to make Murray the tying run at the plate. The Oriole connections to the 1983 World Champions. The last time they made it to the World Series.
Joe's having a little trouble sitting still there now all of a sudden. He was very calm up until they got 2 outs. But when you realize how close you are to the World Series, everyone gets a little jittery.
A 6-0 lead down to 6-4 in the ninth. The 1-0 pitch to Ripken. A called strike at the knees.
Well, Ripken earlier in this game, when he was called out on strikes by Rocky Rowe, had some words for Rowe. And here on that last offering from Wetland, the breaking ball around the outside corner. Again, Cal upset.
That'll make the seats. The Orioles are down to their last strike.
See that Oriole bench? Need another runner and a chance for Murray. That's what they want. Todd Zeile. There he is.
Bounces it up there, 2-2. Ripken is hitless tonight in 3 trips. The Orioles have 4 hits, and 3 of them are home runs. Zeile, Murray, and in this inning, Bonilla. The Yankees hit 3 of their own, all in their 6-run 3rd inning. The 2-2 pitch. A bouncer to deep short. Jeter, long throw. Diving is Cal, but he can't get there in time, and the Yankees win the pennant.
What are we doing?
For the 34th time in team history. And if Cal Ripken, well, there goes Strawberry, who was just tremendous this weekend in Baltimore. O'Neill, Torrey appreciates the gritty effort he gave him. Jeter, the almost certain American League Rookie of the Year. Hayes over from the Pirates. Talk about a change of circumstance. Let's look at the last play. If Cal Ripken is, for many, a symbol of baseball, he's not the fastest runner in the world, but this is symbolic too. A bouncer to deep short. He gives it everything he's got. And he's just out at first base.
Hey, you're right, Bob. I mean, what a way to end this game. The Orioles making a game of it, and as you said, a play by Ripken all out, and they just got him. Tino Martinez, John Wetland, couldn't make it easy.
And how appropriate is it that the last call at first base belonged to Richie Garcia?
All right.
The Yankees are in the World Series.
I was just trying to contain myself. I was trying to contain myself in the third inning. But when it got down to 2 outs, I didn't care about the home run because Wetland's been exciting us all year long anyway. But the last out, I kept looking down. I wanted to look up and see John in a set position. I didn't have to want to watch him out there until he was ready to throw the ball. And then who better to hit the ball to than the kid that's really carried us most of the year, Jeter. I can't tell you, Jimmy, what this means to me.